we're going to talk about LLM Optimizer, and I'm really excited to see a couple of people here on the frequency that we've never had before, and I think that they actually let's just start with a quick round of introductions. My name is Lars. I'm together with Dominik, who you see in the top right corner, are hosts of the Thursday Frequency, and my job is to ask all the stupid questions that you always wanted to get answered. You can help us by leaving comments, and I will take whatever questions you have and incorporate them into my line of questioning. And with me on the call are let's start with Dirk, because I know you by name, and then we go with the others.
Thanks, Lars. Yeah, I'm Dirk. I'm engineering manager at Adobe, doing a lot of things, and here today for my stake of Elmo. So me and my team, we're mostly looking at the on-site opportunities that we offer in Elmo, also partially overlapping with ASO in the future. So yeah, looking forward to answer your questions. And yeah, I guess I hand it over to our subject matter experts, Flavio.
And before I let Flavio talk, just quickly, Elmo is our internal code name for LLM Optimizer, and ASO is Adobe Sites Optimizer.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm Flavio. I lead the domain experts team. So we're based in Basel, and we have geo experts, SEO experts, PPC, content experts, and of course we also have a few people in the US as well. And my background is in SEO, and as every SEO nowadays, we jumped into generative engine optimization, right? That's where LLM Optimizer is focused on, right? And let me pass it to Adrien. Adrien.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I am Adrien. I'm a senior software engineer at Adobe. I'm also a domain expert. I have a decade of experience in SEO, analytics, and all those things. Yes, I was part of the initial team which built the premise of LLM Optimizer, and I will be the one doing the demo today. So very happy to be here.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
And yes, it's me left. Hi, everyone. I'm Constantin. I'm software engineer at Adobe, also based in Basel. I work more on the infrastructure side of things when it comes to integrating the different CDNs with LLM Optimizer, because we need the CDN logs as a main source for extracting the agentic traffic. So I'm working on building support for the main CDN vendors. I recently worked also on a method, sort of a Swiss knife or catch-all method for any exotic CDNs or customers that don't have a CDN to provide logs in some way to LLM Optimizer. And also somewhat familiar with the processing pipeline, so how the agentic traffic is extracted from these logs.
Excellent. Well, let me jump right in with questioning. And my first question would be, what in the world is geo? Because I asked Claude Code about it, and it said geo is something that is like SEO, but it's for regional optimization. And given that this is clearly BS and past Claude's training data, I thought I'd ask the experts for crisp definition of what is geo and why should I care.
Adrien, you, me, let's see.
I think I'll talk more than enough after. I'll let you answer this one.
Perfect. Yeah, sure. So geo is a generative engine optimization, right? It's the process of optimizing your brand, right? The content on your website, but also on other websites as well, and how these agentic bots see your brand on the internet, right? So again, we're not talking about just your website, but we're talking about your brand in general, right? And I think that's the main difference here. SEO, you'll be optimizing, again, the technical aspect, right? The indexation, the quality scores and whatnot. But geo goes further than that, right? SEO is still important, but it adds some more complexity to it.
Right. And we are here in the business of expanding all acronyms on first use. So SEO is SEO, search engine optimization. And so why should I care about this? Are people actually using ChatGPT and other generative tools to get questions answered, or
yes, so it's doubling
the number one?
Yeah, exactly. So at the moment, I think globally, only around 8% of people are actually using AIs. It's increasing like dramatically month by month, right? And what we've seen with our own like Adobe.com and the customers that we work with on a day-to-day basis is that over time the SEO traffic is decreasing, and it is taking the customers are getting the information from the LLM models, right? So it's predicted that by 2028, that over 50% of the traffic or of the interaction to brands will come from AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was a study done by Gardner. And we believe it's true, and we've seen the data. So this is why brands at the moment are heavily wanting to invest in this space, and we see it in our day-to-day work, right? I think we're very privileged, as most of us are the engineers and developers, right? We see the firsthand, we are really in the cutting edge of this, but it is going to get into main society, and in certain industries, we've definitely seen it, for example, on travel and finance.
Mm-hmm.
Most people nowadays, again, 2026, they are using AI to plan their trips, right? To plan how they to plan how they the things they need to do, right? And it's a lot more efficient, so it's having a big impact.
Okay. And can you share a bit about the particular vendors that are most important? Because I see AI summaries in Google. I see dedicated tools like Perplexity. Since I think April last year, ChatGPT has web search. So where should brands put their attention?
So at the moment, still the market leader is ChatGPT, right? OpenAI. So the free model has around 53% of market share, right? The paid version, there is a difference between the two, and Adrien will get to that shortly. They only have around 3%. So let's just say 55% is ChatGPT. Then you have Google AI mode, right? And that has around 20%. And Gemini has around 12, and these are the main ones, right? Of course, a lot of people talk about Perplexity, but they only have around, of that market, around, it says, I think it's two, I think at the moment it's probably around 4 or 5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're seeing Claude again coming in heavily, and we don't have the numbers yet for that one, but I would probably assume that at least 10% moving forward.
Interesting, yeah. No, and I think Claude is definitely having a moment, and
yeah, for sure, yeah. Well, I mean, OpenAI is just giving it to them, right?
Yeah. And as a longtime user of Claude Code, all I have to say is get off my servers and give me my tokens back, because I need this for coding. So
Yeah, exactly.
stop asking stupid questions to Claude, so that I can ask stupid coding questions. Well, you've teased it a couple of times, I think. So the big thing that we want to talk about is that Adobe has a product in this, right? So that GEO is not just a practice, but it's actually something that you can buy in a shiny little box from us. And I think Flavio and I think Adrien is ready to unwrap the box and show us what the product looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give it to Adrien first. I know he's very modest, so I know he won't say this, so I will. So I'll tell you a bit about the story, how we got here. It's like, why did we make this tool, right? So last year, we're quite new to Adobe. We started early last year. We started in Sites Optimizer, right? Again, Sites Optimizer is we do SEO, right? But we also have security and other aspects of conversion, PPC, right? And Adrien was working on the SEO space there. And one of the opportunities that how we work basically is we try to create agentic processes to automate like marketing tasks that you would do, right? And one of the opportunities that we saw was that we saw that some websites were lacking, let's say, featured snippets. So featured snippets back in the day, last year, it was a box that says a summary based on your question, right? So you'd have, let's say, 3 to 5 bullet points or a paragraph of text and a link to the brand, to the website, right? And again, in SEO, this is great because you have visibility right above the search engine result page, right? And Adrien created an opportunity which worked, where it would come in, it would optimize the customer's website, and then they would get this feature snippet. And around, I believe, 2 to 3 weeks later, one of our customers came back to us and said, "Hey, you know that thing that you fixed this feature snippet, right? Now we're actually being seen and we're getting a lot more hits via LLMs, right?" And I think the team had like an eureka moment, like, wait, so if we fix these things here, that means we can have an impact now on visibility in AI and LLM, right? And of course, we had Adobe.com as well, which were also eager to have a product, something that you could use internally to improve their visibility, right? And I think this was the catalyst. And Adrien was the one leading this. And I mean, I think we're very proud to have Adrien here as our expert on this. And he was definitely one of the catalysts of the product that we have right now. So with that introduction, Adrien, I'll just leave it to you.
Thank you, Flavio. All right, let's get into the demo of the tool itself. So this is a space that we have. This is a demo space, which means that all the content, all the information that you'll see in there doesn't belong to real customers. This is a space we've created to be able to demo that without showing any data that should not be seen. So take a look at everything. Nothing is secret in this space. You can look at everything that is available there. Let's start with this page, which is a page that more or less encompasses all the capabilities that we currently have. We have a few different views we will go over in the next minutes together. The first thing that you might see when we look at this screen is that big box, which is like 32% citation readability. Your content can be seen by AI. This is a very strong wording, and that's on purpose because that's really the situation at the moment for that given website or page. Like, the AI currently cannot access the full content of that website, and that can impact visibility. We'll come back to that later, but that is a good way to start explaining how we approach AI visibility, which is with some layers. We have a layer which is operational optimization, which is a bit of like almost the last layer. And we also have a lot of layers before that, which are to be able to track visibility and get insights on understanding how visibility is evolving through time at different levels. Another thing you can see directly is that we have different filters that are available. Important one would be platforms. For the demo, we only have ChatGPT 3, but you can see that we have a bunch of other platforms which are available in paying mode, which you can get when you get access to the tool. When we go a bit below, we'll get back to those numbers more in details in the dedicated views, but you will have a lot of different insights, which we track week over week or day over day, depending on what type of access you have to LLM Optimizer. And then we have different types of metrics. We have visibility score, which is computing basically how well you are visible to LLMs for the set of prompts that you are tracking. 18% out of 100% means that we can probably do better on this one. Brand mention would be how many times your brand is actually cited in the LLM answers. So in this case, we're talking about Frescopa coffee. So the brand would be Frescopa. So how many times in the AI answers Frescopa got written by the AI. Citation is a bit similar, but then we're talking about the website itself, like how many times did the website of Frescopa, so frescopa.coffee, was actually written by the AI answers. That can be as a source, or that can sometimes be as like the URL being written in plain text in the answer.
Yep.
Agentic interaction would be how many times a bot hits the website, AI bot, so a bot that is related to AI interaction, did try to get information from Frescopa Coffee. And the last one is how many users do you actually get from those LLMs. So you can see that it works a little bit like a funnel, like how visible are you, how many times an LLM is actually trying to get information from your website, and then how many times a user gets on your website from those interactions with LLM.
So, so what I'm thinking is that the last two numbers are basically what we observe based on your web traffic, right? So we see how often bots hit your site, and we see how often that leads to visitors. So the brand mentions and the citations, are these synthetic numbers? Right? Does that mean the brand has been mentioned 26 times in a test data set, or how do the brand mentions click with the total referral traffic, right? Because if the brand has only been mentioned 26 times, I wonder how we get 3 orders of magnitude more referrers from that.
Yes. So keep in mind the data that is in this website obviously is dummy data. So you might see some disconnect between those information, which might also explain the difference that we have, which is, as you said, massive in this case. Referral traffic, just a small thing, like referral traffic would usually come from citations and not brand mentions, because you cannot click on a mention. You can click on citation and get the referral. If we go into, you were asking a little bit like how does mention and citations actually work? How do we get that information? We can go into brand presence, which is a view that is dedicated to that first part of LLM visibility, which is, the way we do that is basically we have a list of prompts. I just put that in big so it's easier to see. We have a list of prompts which are organized by topic. Those who know SEO, it would be similar to keywords. Prompts would be keyword in a search engine optimization world, and then the topics would be like clusters of keyword. And what we do is that we will ask LLMs on a weekly basis or daily. As I said before, you can also have daily. We will send them this prompt, and then we will fetch the answer of the LLM about that prompt. So we will get that information, and from that information, we will analyze it, we store it, and then we can derive insights over time and specific information. We can get a little bit more in detail to show a clear example of what
how do I come up with prompts? How do I know what prompts to put in, or does LLM Optimizer tell me?
Yes, so that's a very good question. That's like the starting point of the tool. So for that, there are different ways. You can see those this little like magic wand, which means that it's been generated by the system. You can also go into your customer configuration, and you can also upload prompts yourself. So what we do usually when the tool is being set up for a given customer is that we will provide a set of prompts that our system generates from various different sources that we use. And that is a starting point from which the user might be, okay, those prompts are relevant. Most of the time, the customers will just keep those prompts in because they like them. If they don't like them, they can just remove them and add their own prompts. Another thing that we added recently, in which is getting a lot of usage lately, is a Google Search Console integration. So that what this does is you can connect your Search Console account, and we will fetch through the APIs information about the different keywords and things for which you are ranking on the SEO side, and that gives us information about what your website and what your business is talking about. And from that, we have our own systems which will then create and suggest new prompts. And you can see then that you have the options like, oh, I like this prompt, I can select it, and I can hit plus, and then that prompt will start to be tracked over time. So that's a few different ways to get prompts and to get started.
Got it. Okay.
So something I wanted to share is like the lowest level of detail that you can get to. So you can see that you have data which can be aggregated at a global level. You can go into topic level. You can also go into prompt level on this table, and you can go even deeper, because what we do is that we always save information week over week. So there are, okay, just to have something that looks a bit better in the table.
Now I need to manually zoom in. So
maybe I'll just,
yeah.
like, I'll keep it like that. No, usually it looks better, but I zoom in for it to be easier to see. So you can see there that we would be able to see each time we fetch the answer, and that answer is actually available in tool. So then, for example, this one on March 1st, you can go in it and you can see the actual answer of the LLM. So in this one, you can see that we said, oh, we got cited, the sentiment was positive. And if you go into the system, you can then see, oh, yes, we got cited because we have a link to our website there and there, which means that the citation happened. So you can really go deep in information in the system. And that's very useful for a lot of customers which are using that to drive additional insights. And this is the basis of all the analysis that we also do.
Yeah.
If we go one layer below, we go into agentic traffic. One thing I did not mention in brand presence, something that is very handy and I really like, is that we have those little watch overview button. When you click on that, you will have explanation on how to use this dashboard, which is very handy because it can get overwhelming the first time you open it. It's very easy to use once you get used to that. It takes like a few minutes, but you can also just go into the overview and better understand in a guided tour how to understand the tables.
Okay.
And then here, let's
see if we can put one of these YouTube click me links overlaid in the recording for everyone who's not watching live.
That could be a good idea. Yes.
Yeah.
So what we get as agentic traffic is one layer down after the brand visibility, and that's where the CDN and log configuration comes into action. What we do is that we fetch the logs. As we said, it's very easy setup. We handle most of the major CDNs and even minor CDNs are work in progress. And what we do is that we just fetch whatever we need. So we don't fetch any personal ID identification or anything like that. We drop all of that. We just get whatever we need. So it's very secured. And then we get a lot of insights, which are very interesting and not something, as I know at the moment, I might be wrong, but I don't think there is anyone on the market that does the same thing at the moment in terms of log information for agentic traffic. So basically that gives you information on how many times did a specific agent or a specific platform hit your website. So as I said, we are limited a little bit on that demo account, but on a full-blown account, you would see all those different platforms available with different type of agents. So you can see how many times ChatGPT, for example, tried to access your website for learning, for retrieval, or to actually get a link on your website and then give it back to an end user.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. In the earlier screen, you've shown, and I don't know if the numbers on the ratio is representative. You can tell me that. Is 35 million bot hits to generate 35,000.
Oh yeah, we are the 1 to 10 Russian on the overview.
Is that a typical ratio that we are seeing across our customer base?
I would say yes. I don't have the exact number of the usual ratio we have on most customers, but usually the ratio will be like, we will have a lot of agentic interaction, and the referral traffic you actually get out of that will be much lower, which makes sense. Because if you look at the same thing, like for example, logs analysis is something we've done in SEO for years to analyze Google bot behavior and other things. A bot interaction, a bot going on your website doesn't mean that you will actually get the traffic out of that. On top of that, each time a bot would look at a different page of your website, it's another agentic interaction. But if someone gets on your website, we only capture the entry point, like, oh, they got on the website. And then when they navigate, we don't have a new hit every time in referral. Yes. So that's also another explanation on why the numbers would be so different.
Right. So one is basically page views and the other one is visits.
Yeah, this like referral traffic would be users' visits, and agentic interaction, if you simplify it a lot, would be bots' visits, basically.
So and I know that across our customer base, right, we are seeing an incredible, and I mean the Adobe Experience Manager Sites customer base. We're seeing an incredible groundswell in agentic traffic. And one question that customers are asking is that a good thing, or should we just block the agentic traffic? And I think there are even CDN vendors who are proposing solutions for this, right? It's saying, hey, you can kick all of the bots out, all of them except for Googlebot. So is that a smart strategy?
So in SEO, you learn very early that the answer most of the time is it depends. I would say that for the enormous amount of like most businesses, I do not think it's a good idea of all, because the thing is simple. Like your website has already been crawled and the information has already been captured in the training data of LLMs. So that's the first thing. Like the data, they already have it. They don't need to fetch it again to get it again. Like they have it in the training data. Obviously, they have it until a certain cut in knowledge, but they already fetch the full websites. Now, what happens is that if you block LLMs interaction on your website, then they will have way less possibilities to actually mention and cite your website. But if you block LLMs, your citations will stick to 0 forever. Because they cannot fetch your website, they cannot access it. If they cannot access it, why would they recommend your website? And down the road, down a few months or years, why would they recommend your brand even? So I would say that that's something that might be something you wanted to think about, I know, 5 years ago, and that was probably already too late. Today, I would say that's a very bad idea to do. There are some caveats, like if you are very, like, if you have a data moat that only you have and nobody else has, and that's behind something that prevented the bots from LLMs to fetch it, keep it very preciously. But if you have something that has already been fetched by AI before, I think it's more or less over. And most companies don't really have that data moat that would justify blocking LLMs. So for 99% of businesses, don't do that.
Okay. And so you're working closely with Adobe.com. Does Adobe.com block bot traffic? Do you know that?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Good. I see there's one question, and I think it should be just a quick detour, which is that we are getting the data from CDN logs. Can you show how the setup works and how you connect your CDN?
To be honest, I cannot, but maybe we have someone on the call who is working with CDN logs, so maybe he can step in and show that would work.
Absolutely, I would be happy to do so. So I don't know if we can actually demo it on this account because it's a toy setup, right? So the whole configuration might not be there. But generally, you need to go to the customer configuration exactly, and then you go to the CDN configuration tab. Onboard CDN, you can click that, select the choice that is the most appropriate to your use case. So the first 3 are the Adobe Managed CDNs that are corresponding to the Adobe Commerce Solution, Adobe Cloud Service, and Adobe Managed Services. And the others are Bring Your Own CDN solutions. Right. The last one is not just, it used to be a way to ask for the CDN of your choice to be implemented, but today it provisions actual access to forward logs. So if you will go with that, what you get is an S3 bucket provision. You get credentials to upload files to that S3 bucket. The only caveat there is that you need to follow a schema. So you need to massage a bit your data, because the source of your data might be many things, right? So with CloudFront, with Cloudflare, Imperva, and so on, we know very well what we expect. For example, how the properties are called, right? What the format of the logs are. So we know that. With this option, we don't know. So the schema has to be fixed. But assuming the customer uploads the logs with that specific schema, they can upload them. And this is the catch-all method that I was mentioning in the beginning.
Okay. So basically, if you would select Fastly there, because, and I'm asking about Fastly because I almost always have the Fastly dashboard open. You would onboard, and then what?
So we can try it. It will provision a bucket that is okay.
Actually, I don't know what's happening now, but maybe I should not have clicked there.
Oh, so it's basically assuming that you log into S3 and that.
So what it does, it will provision an S3 bucket for that is dedicated to your account. In this case, the person that is logged in with frescopa.coffee. Okay,
perfect.
So you get that bucket, that is the storage for your logs, and you get credentials that authenticate you to S3. So it's you, the person behind frescopa.coffee, and that bucket, so no one else can access it. And then you get also a few other details that are relevant for your CDN. So for example, with I don't know, Fastly, you will have a suggestion frequency of how often to upload the logs. And all these details are specific to each vendor, and that's why the configuration might differ a bit from one vendor to the other.
Okay.
And that's roughly what you see on the page.
Good.
And
so there
was instructions to guide you through the setup.
Excellent. There was a second question, and I think that is exactly. So do customers have to provide the API keys for each of the platforms that you're tracking, or is that included as the LLM Optimizer license? And I would like to thank Naveed for asking a closed question, so we can just answer yes or no.
No, I mean, it's included by default in brand presence, so there is no need to provide API key.
Perfect. Okay, so where did we leave off?
I think we were in between agentic and referral traffic. So
let's take a look at that.
Can move to referral traffic now. Referral traffic, as I said before, it's a bit of a funnel. So you have the overall visibility on the platform themselves, then you have how often do bots hit your website, and then you have how often do users hit your website, which might be a very important part of the topic. So in this, again, all data is a bit dummy in this one, but in this one, we say that we got 880,000 traffic from LLMs. You can see all platforms, so you can see, okay, we got that information from global is usually US for most markets. We have United Kingdom, so you can see it by country. You can see by type of referrer, so we have a bunch from Google. We have OpenAI there, which would be 4% for these accounts. And we also have things like by page intent. So what we do there, usually we have way less unknown. We identify what type of page you're getting visits to, transactional, commercial, informational. Informational would be blog post, for example, or the home page. Commercial would be a product page, PDP. And transactional would be, like, for example, a category or like a SaaS features page and that kind of things.
And PDP is product detail page for anyone wondering.
Yes. Yeah. And a few interesting things that we are able to surface is, for example, concentrate, which is how often do users actually press OK on the consent banner. So if you have a lot of users in Europe, for example, that's very interesting to know. And the bounce rate also, which is a very classic metric, which is how many people are leaving your website after loading the first page. And believe me or not, but 48.9% would not be that bad, usually in bounce rate.
No, it's what I can see here is that this is clearly made up data by people who are super optimistic.
Yes, definitely.
Both constant rates are typically below 50%, and bounce rates are typically
so
way
one thing on that, like we have many customers with very high consent rate because it's also taking, for example, the US into account. And in the US, you don't need to consent; it's automatically triggered, so that will give it like a much higher level. But then if you go there into markets, then that would drop by a lot.
Okay. Makes sense.
And then we have all the information. As usual, we like to basically give a table of data at the bottom because we know a lot of users like to dig a bit deeper than the insight we surface by default. So there is always that ability to go into a specific table and see the exact information, exporting that, modifying the kind of information you want to see, and so on. So that's something we like to give access to. You can have the detail by URL, which is also very interesting and useful to have. And that also gives me a very nice way to move to the next one, which is the URL inspector. Do you have questions on the referral traffic still, or can we move on to the next?
Let's go on. Let's keep going.
Let's go. So I will go back to details in a second, but I'll just hit to that. So URL inspector is a view which gives you a unified information at a URL level. So you can understand that very easily if we go into the table again. I really like those tables. There, instead of being on a prompt basis, you see information on a URL basis. So for example, Heritage Coffee Standards, you can see that it's not getting citation attempt, but it's getting cited. Okay, this is dummy data, so it should be higher. But then it gets cited quite often. It gets cited 109 times in 20 prompts, which would say that you get cited 5 times per prompt for this one. And then you see that there is no referral hit, so unfortunately no users are getting on that page from those citations. Maybe we have some with data then. Yeah, okay, oh, we have one there. So this one would mean that out of those 5 times it was cited, you got 278 people who clicked on those links, which would be a lot.
So, Adrien, you've been showing me a lot of data that makes me very anxious about my site not doing well enough.
Yes.
The product is called LLM Optimizer. There's a promise in there, which is we will take care of the problem. So how do you do that?
Very good question. I think that's true. We have a lot of data that is available. The nice thing is that you can, if you're not interested in seeing that much data and getting anxious about it, you can just keep it and go into opportunities. What we do in opportunities, I think, is one of the key part of LLM Optimizer, which is that all the data you previously saw, we use it and more to be able to identify opportunities for improvement. So we automatically do a lot of different audits on the websites and on the data we collect, and that gives us information on, okay, what actually needs to be improved to get better visibility. We have different categories in there. You can see that we have on-site opportunity, on-site content, which would be anything related to content on your website. Technical, which would be anything on the website which is technical. And then you can also have an off-site optimization, which we'll come back to in a second. I'll just start top to bottom and share one example on each. One example that I really like is this add LLM friendly summaries, but that would work with any of those 3. So what we found out in our research and seeing results we get with Adobe.com, who we collaborate with directly, other customers, and overall data, is that LLMs like being able to fetch information about a page very easily and very fast. So that means basically adding a summary or key elements of a page topic at the top of the page. So we automatically identify that opportunity and we deliver it to you. And you can see that we only have one, but usually you would have much more than one URL. Basically, usually most of the pages are triggering this opportunity and say, okay, you should add a page summary, which should be this and should be put at the top of your page. So on the home page, and we would add information. That works very well, and it's almost a no-brainer for things like blog posts and that kind of thing. For pages which would be like product-related or PDP, so product pages for e-commerce website, for example, someone on the team of the end user customers would go through that and read that. It's always, most of the time, I've not had a case where the summary was bad, basically, from all of the one I've seen. So it's always hitting the nail. Usually customers will read through that, validate it, and then they would basically deploy it. Question that would naturally be coming is, how do you actually optimize it? Do you have to go there and like copy that, open your website, go into the back office of your website and paste that directly? You don't necessarily have to do that, because the last layer that we have is not directly LLM Optimizer. I don't know how much we want to go into this one. Is something we call Optimize at Edge, which allows you to deploy that kind of optimization with basically the push of a button. So you can see that if I select this one, and I will not click for that demo today, you can click on Deploy Optimization. And what that can do, if your website is set up with that, it will automatically push the optimization on your website. So it can modify your pages directly in two different ways. Optimize at Edge will deploy it only for LLMs bots. So when they access your website, they will see that summary. But if me as a user go to this page after this has been deployed, I will not see any change. Right. This is something that is very useful, because then it allows you to do very good optimization specific to LLMs without changing the experience of the end users. And some people in the listening to that talk might have questions about cloaking and Googlebot, because this is something Googlebot doesn't like. We do not give that information to Googlebot. So we have a way to only deploy that to OpenAI, Perplexity, and direct bots access. But for Googlebot, we do not deploy this optimization directly.
Excellent. So we are cloaking, but not for Googlebot, because
exactly
it's penalizing it. Okay.
And you can be sure that the domain experts like Flavio and me are very, very careful and reviewing that regularly to ensure that there is absolutely no risk on that end. And we would not have green flagged that without this check. So yes, it's really like no risk whatsoever on the SEO level, but it's a very good optimization on geo, and we've already seen good results for several customers with this opportunity.
Yep. Okay.
So that's a constant yes.
I was about to ask you to wrap up your demo, because we have a couple of questions come in, and I want to give them enough time.
We can do that. So, well,
before you do, I just want to add one thing. I think it'll be very interesting, especially for the developers in the room, the content visibility. So the JavaScript issue, right? The elephant in the room, and what the biggest issue that the bots currently have. Yeah. Maybe we just 1 more minute on this one, because I think the audience would love to hear this one.
Yeah.
So recurrent content visibility is a specific opportunity which is related to the fact that at the moment, in contrary to SEO and Googlebot, which is able to fetch JavaScript and to execute JavaScript to an extent, LLMs, when they fetch your website, they do not execute JavaScript, which means that if you have content which is executed on a client-side rendering, it will be very difficult for LLMs to actually fetch that information. So this opportunity is something for which we audit that. We notify pages which might have issues with client-side rendering for LLM visibility, and we suggest fixes at Edge again, so that will be deployed specifically for LLMs. And when you hit that button, it will basically ensure that the full content of the page is being made available to LLMs in a way that they can properly retrieve it. So yeah, that's probably one of the most powerful opportunities that we currently serve to our customers.
Okay.
I think that's a very good way to wrap the demo. Yes, thank you, Flavio.
Thank you.
And I can already see the questions trickle in. So
nice.
let's start with the first one, which is is there a way to figure out how many referrals came for which particular prompt, right? And is this possible at the moment?
No. So at the moment, you cannot tie it back to specific prompts.
Right.
You can tie it back to platforms, but not to prompts specifically.
Right. And that, I think that's the same thing in the SEO world, right? Where you can no longer you can no longer tell which particular query led to a particular hit.
Yes, you can. I would say you have a very complicated way to maybe get that, which means that we are not getting into that because it's too convoluted. So I would say at the moment, yeah, no, it's not something that's available, and it will be like that as long as LLM platforms do not give any access to the actual data of usage.
Okay, good, makes sense. So then the next question would be, does this edge optimization support content coming from document authoring, from Adobe Experience Manager, Universal Editor, from Adobe Storefront? So is this tied to a particular content management system?
No, it wouldn't. So if it's on your website, we can implement it, right?
Okay.
So the content has to be within your website itself.
Yeah. So it works for all of the above and more, because it works for any content management system as long as
it can be outside Adobe. Yeah, you don't have to be within our ecosystem. This is why it's Adobe LLM Optimizer, not aem Sites Optimizer.
Right. Got it. Okay, so the next question is from Eric, which is, can we inject data from edge delivery services, right, where we often use client-side includes on the server side to so that no custom CDN or edge worker is needed for this?
That's a very good question. In theory, yes, it can, right? But we've done some tests internally within the team, and we've seen, especially, for example, for structured data, that the LLMs weren't really picking it up. So we didn't invest our time at the moment into it, right? But we have seen customers ask for this feature. So I think traditionally a lot of customers use, let's say, maybe injecting with JavaScript, right? Maybe they put it in the head with a certain feed, right? But it could be done, but at the moment we don't have this functionality. Again, we have done tests and we haven't seen, especially with the FAQ structured data, we didn't see any impact. This is why we didn't invest further.
Yeah, and I can tell that we've been running this experiment on the aem-live homepage for a couple of months now, where we basically inlined the header and footer because people were asking us about this, and we actually saw a small impact, which was negative, right? So we've been tanking our performance, our rendering performance to a certain degree, only to find out that the LLMs aren't thanking us for it, and are not sending any additional traffic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this general. I'm not saying that the LLMs do not get the structured data. They don't do this directly, but they might go into certain providers, data brokers, right, and buy some knowledge graph information, right?
Yeah.
But as our understanding at the moment, and as if you understand a bit about tokenization, right, it doesn't make sense that they will try to interpret information.
Right. So the next question I would like to bring up, actually, can we go to the next one, because Tad has been. That's the only question that Tad has been asking. He commented and answered questions, actually. So are we going to support longer range trending of more than 4 weeks in the LLM Optimizer UI?
At the moment, we support up to 8 weeks out of the box. You can have like custom range and select up to 8 weeks. It's in discussion to go more than that, but I don't have any timeline at the moment in terms of availability. Okay.
Good. And that means we can go now to the previous question. So should we follow this linear journey where we start with brand presence, then go into agentic traffic, referral traffic, or what would your recommended way of using LLM Optimizer be on the day-to-day?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. Who are you in the organization you work at? We have very different type of people who are using LLM Optimizer. It goes all the way to the executive people who just want numbers to put on their slides and reports, and it goes all the way to data analysts, SEO manager, geo manager, and so on. So and developers as well. So it really depends on what you want to do. The approach of brand presence and generating traffic, referral traffic, I think comes back from my business background of having to do reporting for a long time to executive people, where it's just a nice way to present the journey. But the end goal on how to use it, I say, if it's the first time you're going through the tool, it can be a good way to understand the flow, but then you'll end up going back to the view that is most relevant to you, usually. So it really depends on what you're trying to do with the tool.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think that leaves us time for one more question from the audience.
Yeah, we don't have any more
if
at the
you're
moment.
very fast at typing, now is your time to type, and I'm going to stall a couple more minutes just to make sure that your question can get in.
If we want to put in some links, so I can also push then on the screen, maybe from my experts, what kind of links you want to share with the community. You can just put it into the comments section. I can share it on the screen if you want.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, and it doesn't seem like more questions are coming in, which is also fine, because that leaves me with my final question to Dominik. Dominik, when are we going to see each other again, and what are we going to talk about?
There is nothing planned at the moment, to be honest. We are working on it. We will find out what is next, but yeah, we were focusing a lot of other things, but we will definitely get back. If you have any
ideas, demands, questions, please post them. And well, there will be a return. We just don't know yet when.
Yeah.
So please stay tuned. Like and subscribe, as they say on YouTube. And I hope to see all of you very soon. Thanks everyone for joining live, for asking questions. Thanks to the LLM Optimizer team for being here tonight, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.